been. The Greens, perhaps, have had their day and are getting their comeuppance. In a moment, we'll talk to Michael Kroger. First up, though, party strategist Bruce Hawker joins us from Perth this morning. Bruce, good to have you with us. Thanks for joining us. It is high time, isn't it? The Greens have got off scot-free for too long.
I agree with that, Paul. I've been saying for a long time, actually, that the government really didn't even need to go into an agreement with the Greens party after the election. I think they could have just said to them, well, look, go and support Tony Abbott if you think that he's a better choice than Labor. And I don't think that anybody would have supported going down that path. As it turns out, you know, the Greens are seen by many people to be the tail that's wagging the dog, and Labor has to put an end to that.
But that is definitely true. And when you say seen by many people, this is the classic tail wagging the dog. There is a saying, isn't there, Bruce, that if you lay down with dogs, you'll get fleas. And it would appear that Labor are the ones that have got the fleas from the Greens.
History tells us that whenever Labor goes into any sort of formal arrangement with the Greens, or any party does, it tends to be disastrous. In Tasmania in the 1990s, a Labor government and then a Conservative government both went into coalition governments with the Greens with disastrous results. In fact, the Bacon government in Tasmania made a virtue of saying that they would not go into coalition with the Greens, and they won a majority in their own right. Yeah. I think Labor has to be tough on this, Paul, and continue to make that point.
All right, Sarah Hanson-Young, Green Senator, in response to what she perceives to be unfair attacks on the Greens, has said the Labor Party has no values and stands for nothing.
Well, I think, you know, the Labor Party is in a unique position where it can say they are both pro-jobs, pro-growth and pro-environment. The Greens can't make all those claims, and really the Liberals can't either. This is a unique position that the Labor Party occupies, and I think it has to go out there and make that case constantly. There's no point in going into coalitions with the Green Party if at the end of the day, when it comes down to the hard decisions, they always vote against the government, and that means sometimes voting with Tony Abbott on big issues like asylum seekers.
Absolutely. Well, that was a classic case, wasn't it? Last day of Parliament before winter, and the Greens, the coalition partner of the government, side with the opposition, which, given, and I know we talked about this a little last week, given that Labor fell on their sword, Julia Gillard fell on the sword over the carbon tax, you would have thought that they would have expected a bone to be thrown to them from the Greens on asylum seekers.
You would have expected so, but, you know, their tradition is just to take a hard party line, an ideological line, and not go for a sensible outcome. As I've said before, you know, purity sometimes has a price, and it's called impotence, and that's what we're seeing now. We're not getting outcomes, practical results, as a result of the intransigence of the Greens. In fact, Paul, one of the interesting things is that whether the Greens issued a how-to-vote card or not, about 79 to 80% of Green voters would preference the Labor Party anyway. They tend to be people who were once supporters of the Labor Party or to the left of the Labor Party, and will always go back to them anyway.
Well, but that's just another example of saying that it is Labor's fault the Greens are where they are now. I mean, not only did this government decide to go into coalition with them and give them all this power, all this say, but most of their supporters used to be Labor supporters who became disenchanted.
Indeed, and I think that's part of the reason why people like Sam Dastyari in New South Wales are now saying, look, we have to refocus, recalibrate Labor's message. We are a party of jobs, we are a party of growth. We didn't, when Paul Keating and Bob Hawke were in government, they didn't need the Greens to tell them how to run environmentally friendly governments. You know, in many ways, the Greens are just a marginal group in society who have been given far too much power, and unfortunately the Labor Party is now paying a price for that.
But you see, that is exactly right. The problem with this, of course, is the Greens are not a political movement. They're a lobby group. They're not a political party, so they shouldn't be treated as a political party. A quick question for you, Bruce. How can Labor distance themselves from the Greens now because they need them to stay in power?
Well, as I said, I think the Greens are just going to have to continue to support Labor anyway. Tony Abbott would go straight to an election which would not be in the interest of Adam Bandt or the Greens in the Senate either. This is a case of Labor just staring down the Greens and saying, you've got to support us, you need us more than we need you.
All right, thank you very much for joining us, Bruce. Bruce Hawke.